The Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Series, America's largest off-road racing series for motorcycles and ATVs. Today it's motorcycle racing from the deep woods of Ohio. Jason Wygant here to give you all the action, and the story has begun before the race has even started. Mother Nature drenching this course at rain. It's going to be a mud bog. Don't let the sunny skies of Pup Meat fool you. It's going to be tough for these guys, and we're going to cover all the action. Get ready, it's time to go GNCC Racing.
Well, hello everyone. We welcome you once again to the Wiseco John Penton GNCC in round number 7 of America's series. As we're looking at partly cloudy skies, a temperature of only 65 degrees, and a drying out track, which indicates rain over the course of the last couple of days. A good look at that Moose Point standings right now. Juha Salminen continues to stretch that lead out over Glenn Kearney. Barry Hogg back in third. And once again, Charlie Mullins graces with his presence here in the Moose Point standings, with a 7th place position in the points right now, as things are really tightening up from about 5th place on back in the Moose Point standings. And a good look at that starting line as Barry Hogg getting himself ready to go racing. Will he be able to stop the assault that Juha Salminen has set on the rest of the world? Will Steve Hatch be able to, well, race another great race like he did a couple of weeks ago down in Tennessee, as he's coming off of a 3rd place finish? Shane Watts still on the I'm not sure if I'm racing tour, and of course Jason Rain still trying to get things put together here in this 2005 season, as Juha Salminen, the man in the pilot seat here in this 2005 series, as we can see his mechanic there, Antti Kallinen. And Antti seems to be a little bit distracted by the cameras today, but waving to all the folks here in the United States. One of our newer pros there, Andy Shea, aboard the number 23, a former 250A standout, trying to make his mark now in that pro class. Might have an opportunity to do it here in his home state of Ohio today. I guess time will tell that story as we get one more look at that starting lineup as we get set to go racing here at the Wiseco John Penton GNCC, as we'll be waiting for that green flag to fly up here in just a couple of moments, and those kickstarts to go down and the racing action to get underway. And here it is as the kickstarts go down. We're off and rolling into turn number 1. Who's going to get that early lead? They jockey for position. Hatch along with Salminen, Robbie Jinks, and it even looks like Jimmy Jarrett also battling for that number 1 spot. But who comes out on top? None other than the 111 of Juha Salminen. And once again, this could spell trouble for the rest of the boys in this GNCC pack that are trying not only to chase him here at the John Penton GNCC, but also in that overall point standings, as he already has a healthy lead. Continuing through that start section now through about the 4th turn as we head into the first little wood section of racing. Juha Salminen on top, Robbie Jinks in second, and back there in the number 3 spot, that's the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett, with 4th place right now belonging to the number 3 of Barry Hogg. Let's take a look now at that FMF hole shot to see just exactly how Juha Salminen got that early lead as we watch the green flag get set to go up. It goes up, and our kickstarts go down. And doesn't look like Juha got the best of jumps off the starting line. It looks like, though, his line into the first turn is what gave him the best advantage. That last little bit of drive he took heading into that first turn of racing. He sweeps out wide and takes the hole shot in an FMF hole shot award. As we head down the road number 2, our 250A class, a total of 24 riders in all in our 250A class on road number 2. Going to see who's going to get that early lead here as they take him into the woods here in just a moment. D.R. Atwood in his home track right now, actually from the Millfield area, so this is kind of home territory for him as we head down the road number 3 now, as this is the 4-stroke A 0 to 300cc and the 4-stroke A 301cc plus. We have 11 riders in the 0 to 300cc and a total of 7 riders in the 301cc and up, for a total of 18 riders tackling the rolling hills of southeastern Ohio here at the Sunday Creek Cycle Park. Road number 4 heading off now. This is the Vet A class in the turn number 1, and see if we can get a number. That is the number 69 of Eric Church out of Warren, Pennsylvania, doing battle right now with the 707 of Robert Patterson. Looks like Patterson out of Columbia, Tennessee, may take that early lead here in this Vet A class as we check once again, and that is him as he makes his way down that long straightaway heading into that first wooded section. And Robert Patterson from Columbia, Tennessee is going to hold on to the lead. Row number 5 now, and the 200A off and rolling. A total of 11 riders on row number 5. Who's going to grab this early lead? Looks like that number 39 of Todd Moraine out of Amherst, Ohio. Once again, the man to beat, and appears to be the whole shot expert in this 200A class for this 2005 Suzuki GNCC Series. As we make our way around into that first wooded section once more, it looks like some changes may have taken place as Adam Giddings out of Little Hocking, Ohio, a KTM pilot, just outside the Athens County area over in Logan County. Looks like holding on to the lead as they head into the woods. Row number 6 now, the Open A division. 9 riders in all tackling turn number 1. The 77 of Joseph Geyer had the early lead, but that KTM pilot there, I believe that is either Chris Erickson, the number 285, or the 668 of Matt Bennett. Erickson from Batavia, Ohio. Bennett from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. But it looks like quite possibly neither one of those guys are going to get credit for that early lead as they make their way into the wooded section here on row number 6, our Open A division. As we head down to row number 7 now, senior A riders, riders of at least 40 years of age or older. We've got a total of 11. It looks like the number 36 of Dennis Decker once again going to pull the early lead here, but he's got company there with that number 356 of Keith Rogers out of Dover, Pennsylvania. Those two are always doing battle here in this senior A division as we sweep around heading into that first wooded section now. It looks like Rogers has actually taken over the lead. Dennis Decker has dropped off into the number 2 spot as they continue to jockey for position. Looks like the number 50 of Randall Hillegas may be going to get that third place position heading into the wooded sections. We head down to our next row, row number 8, the Open B division. 13 riders in this division in the turn number 1. It looks like almost an all KTM field, and it's going to be tough to tell who's going to get the early lead here. But nonetheless, looks like KTMs are definitely favored in that Open B division today. Heading down to row number 9 now, our 4-stroke B class. This once again the 0 to 300cc and the 301cc plus. And we've got the number 658, it looks like, with that early lead out there. We'll see if we can get a name on that. That's Casey Smith from Avon, Indiana, on board the Yamaha, a 16-year-old youngster. 26 riders in the 0 to 300cc class and 301cc plus, a total of 15 riders. By the way, our whole shot expert there in that 4-stroke B class comes from that 4-stroke B 0 to 300cc division. As again, they make their way into this wooded section for the first time here at the Whites Code John Penton GNCC. And we'll move now to the 250B class on row number 10. And a total of 33 riders in all tackling this first turn in the 250B class. It looked like quite possibly maybe Schlebach aboard the number 64 from Columbus, Ohio, getting off to a pretty good start there as they continue to jockey for position here on row number 10 in this 250B class. Again, a total of 33 riders heading into these first few turns. And it appears it's going to be that number 787 of Brian Gunther out of Grove City, Pennsylvania, aboard the Yamaha, grabbing the early lead in this 250B class, and he's going to show them the fast way through the hills of southeastern Ohio. Row number 11 now, our 200B class, tackling that first turn. A total of 27 riders in all as they jockey for position. Tough to tell, KTM pilot getting that early lead, but will he be able to hang on to it? That question remains to be answered here at this John Penton Wiseco GNCC, and we say a special thanks to our friends at Wiseco Piston, the title sponsor of this 2005 John Penton GNCC. It looks like maybe the 447 or the 414 of Nathan Saving out of Logan, Ohio, taking that early lead aboard that Kawasaki here in this 200B class, and he's going to try to show him the fast way around the woods. He's also from not too far from here, as Little Hocking, once again, the next county over in Logan, Ohio. That's row number 11, our 200B class. 2 more to go. Row number 12 now, the Vet B class. Off into turn number 1, a total of 16 riders in all as we jockey for position through that first turn. It looks like that number 84 of Bill Cronin going to grab an early advantage, but whether or not he's going to be able to hold on to the lead, that question remains to be answered. He had the inside line heading into turn number 2, but it looked like another rider quite possibly with the momentum as we head down the row number 13, our final row, the Senior B division. 16 entries in all heading into the turn here. And Brad Waddell aboard the number 81 machine from Freeport, Pennsylvania, Suzuki rider. taking that early lead, and Brad Waddell also one of the major forces in the Senior B division. Row number 13. Oh, and down goes Waddell. He's not going to be much of a force, at least in the early part of this race as they get set to head into that first turn. We've got changes in position already and new leaders in that Senior B division. Heading out near the 1.5 mile marker here on lap number 1 now, and a lead change already as Robbie Jinks from New Straceville, just up the road from Athens, has taken over the lead. Juha Salmon has dropped off to a second place position, and also it looks like maybe Barry Hawk might have dropped off a spot or two as things have really turned here in the early part of lap number 1. Juha back in second with Robbie Jinks out front. And of course, as we get a good look at this race course right here, virgin territory for these riders. It doesn't look real bad out there on this particular part of the racetrack, and in reality the track's not as bad as it was yesterday. We had a chance to talk with Jeff Russell earlier.
As like the last few events here, we got a bunch of rain on Friday and Saturday. The quad guys had it very difficult. It's actually sun's out today, and it's going to tack up and get pretty nice for these guys this afternoon.
To the microphone, Miss Carrie Jo.
Well, these motorcycle pilots don't have near the conditions to face as what the ATV riders had yesterday with a very swampy, sloppy mess all around the race course. As Jeff Russell said, things are tacking up and things are heating up front. Robbie Jinks still out front, second place. Juha Salmon, and looks like Kearney, the number 114, has moved up into a number 3 position. Barry Hawk holding somewhat steadily back there in that number 4 position aboard the number 3 Yamaha. And of course, Barry having not a bad day today. He's well within striking distance. And we talked with him earlier today.
Yeah, hopefully get a good start and stay up front. I mean, this mud. I went over and watched the start of the morning race, and it's pretty ugly. So it's going to be definitely a lot of ruts, survival race. Try not to make too many mistakes and just stay up front.
So you're from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, actually, the other Thursday I was doing a little bit of riding at home, and it rained Wednesday night quite a bit. So it was. I didn't want to go out and ride in it, but my practice track. But I thought, hey, it could get ugly out there, so kind of glad I went and done that and got some mud riding in there. And I've been through this quite a few times, so just go out and try and have fun.
Well, Barry Hawk's been struggling quite a bit this year. I think a lot of it has been with actual suspension problems, but hopefully he'll be able to get that all dialed in and get things smoothed out for him as we check in with our leaders once again near the 6.5 mile marker. It's still Juha and Jinks battling for that number 1 spot up there as they're nearly wheel to wheel. Barry Hawk checks in that 4th place position. And speaking of Barry Hawk and the Ampro Yamaha, of course, Ampro Yamaha has another rising star in the number 15 of Charlie Mullins, who took an actual 4th place finish at our last motorcycle race down at Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch in Tennessee. Expecting a lot of things out of that young man. Of course, we had an opportunity to talk with him earlier today before the race.
After that race, I was feeling pretty good.
Are you confident today going in? You think it's going to be the same type of thing?
I hope so. I hope I get a good start and try to move through the pros as fast as I can, try to get through the front of the pack and hopefully hook up with the front guys and hang with them, learn their pace. But I'm looking forward to today. It's going to be a tough one, a lot of mud, ruts, so I think a smart rider and good shape will win it.
Charlie Mullins from Hamilton, Ohio, a 19-year-old 250A rider who come off his best finish ever a couple of weeks ago down at Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch with a near podium position finish. That actually came up just a little short with a 4th place overall. That rocketed him up into the 7th place position overall in our point standings after 6 rounds of racing. One rider that did fare very well in Tennessee and had the best ride of the 2005 season is that number 4 FMFThuddlehead.com Team Green Kawasaki pilot we see making his way up the hill now. Of course, of none other than Steve Hatch, who seems to be on a roll. And today here in the mud, I would expect him to finish strong at the John Penton GNCC. There's the number 3 of Barry Hawk, who is actually running what looks to be back in about a 5th place position now. Not real sure. We'll check in with him again in just a few moments. But right now, back out front with Juha Salmon and the rest of the boys. Looks like Juha having pressure applied by Robbie Jinks. Speaking of Juha, we had a chance to talk with him earlier today about today's race and the conditions.
It's going to be another mud race. What are you expecting?
Yeah, actually, it's gonna be first really mud race. Last race in Tennessee was okay. There's some mud spots, but not really mud race. But he looks like this weekend here, it's gonna be mud race.
So, have you ever rode in mud like this?
Yeah, we have plenty of these in south of Europe, in France and Italy. But it's always, you never train in these kind of conditions, so you normally only race in these kind of conditions.
Well, in reality, Juha Salminen, a 10-time world enduro champion, no stranger to the mud, but one thing he may be a stranger to is having pressure applied to him, and it looks like Robbie Jinks from New Straitsville, Ohio, has been doing that pretty much since the word go. Robbie was leading part of this first lap of racing, and he has kept Juha Salminen 111 in check the entire way around this first lap of racing. It looks like the number 3 of Barry Hawk back in that number 4 spot on board that Pro Yamaha, still trying to reel in the podium right now. And of course, Barry Hawk very, very hungry for as many points as he can get as we continue to check in with more of our pro riders making their way up this hill. We can already begin to see dust starting to fly. We've got mud, some heavy, thick mud in lots of places on this race course, and as they make their way up that hill, they spun all that mud off, and we have got dust actually starting to make its way up out near that 10-mile marker as we make our way toward that finish line, the completion of lap number 1. And to sort things out here at this Wiseco John Penton GNCC. There's the number 14. That's P.A. Allen out of Van Leer, Tennessee, on board that Kawasaki. Scott Summers now checking in aboard the number 6 Parts Unlimited Honda. Scott Summers coming out of retirement a couple of years ago. We haven't seen a lot from Scott since round number 2 in that, actually be round number 3 in that 2004 season when he made that podium position finish down in Georgia. And that's the last bit of greatness we've had to witness out of the number 6 of Scott Summers. But speaking of greatness, we're witnessing it right now as they make their way closer and closer toward the conclusion of lap number 1. It is still Juha Salminen. It looks like he's opening things up a little bit over the number 10 of Robbie Jinks, who has a rather healthy gap between himself and the number 3 spot of the 114 of Glenn Kearney. Back in 4th place is still the number 3 of Barry Hawk, who does not seem to be on too much of a charge right now. It looks like Barry Hawk is just trying to survive this race and make his way around the race course, at least this first lap through, until he realizes what the lines are like and how well this racetrack is holding up. End of lap number 1 now as Juha Salminen makes his way in. And Robbie Jinks not too far behind in the number 2 spot aboard the number 10 KTM, a fellow teammate of Juha Salminen. And, of course, we'll be breaking them down overall for you in just a moment. Looks like still the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett holding on to a 3rd place position. But reports are that some of our 250A riders are riding some pretty fast paces right now, and we may see a 250A rider or 2 gracing the top 10 overall after lap number 1 complete. There goes the number 7 of Fast Freddie Andrews checking in. Also the number 2 of Jason Raines once again, as they're well out of the top 5 right now, near that top 10 and almost outside of the top 10 as they work their way into this finish line region. Well, as we wait for that 250A class to make their way in and check out the time adjustment just to see exactly how well they are doing, it's time for our KTM Product Spotlight.
I'm here with Mark Hyde, 4-time Blackwater champ and KTM regional sales rep for this week's KTM Product Spotlight. And this week, we're taking a look at the 2-stroke and the wide variety that KTM has to offer.
Yeah, we make some great model choices. We have the 200, the 250, the 300. We make them in EXC and cross-country models, so you can pick the bike that works for whatever class you ride. And also, wherever you are in the United States, we offer different transmissions, just different ignitions, so you can custom fit the bike to wherever you ride and wherever you race. So the best thing to do is go visit your KTM dealer or visit us at ktmusa.com and pick out the bike that's going to get you in the winner's circle.
And that's this week's KTM Product Spotlight.
Checking in with our leader now, Juha Salminen, as he makes his way through the pro pit section. This is about the 1.5 mile marker or so as they make their way onto the motocross track after going through a short woods section. They'll go through the pro pits, and then after they go through the pro pits and the auxiliary pro pits we see there, Juha Salminen will once again tackle this famous track at Sunday Creek Cycle Park, the motocross track section here where we have a lot of youth and amateur regionals for the Amateur National Motocross Championship. But it looks like so far so good for Juha, as he not having a whole lot of problems other than some lap traffic just ahead of him right now. As we take a look at that Suzuki leaders board, Salminen out front of Jinks, Jarrett in 3rd, Hawk in 4th, and Aaron Wagner, one of those 250A riders, rounding out the top 5. Fred Andrews in 6th, Brian Garahan in 7th, Jason Raines in 8th, Scott Watkins, another 250A rider, in 9th, Charlie Mullins, who's riding 3rd in the 250A class, actually rounding out your top 10 in our Suzuki Leaders Board. And, of course, thanks to Suzuki. Remember, champions choose Suzuki, as Suzuki, a big sponsor of our GNCC racing. Let's stop down and check in with Robbie Jinks.
You know, it's just a matter of luck today. Picking the right line all day. You know, some of the holes are going to be deep, some of the ruts are going to be deep. The guy that's going to win is going to pick the good lines and keep a steady pace all day.
And a steady pace Robbie Jinks appears to be keeping right now, as he is close in tow with the 111 and current points leader of Juha Salminen. And Robbie Jinks on his home turf is showing the hometown crowd that he is fast. And he is fast here in the Ohio mud as well, as we continue through the auxiliary and pro pits here at the John Penton GNCC. We head out now near the 1.5 mile marker, as it looks like Salminen being pressured by that number 10 still of Robbie Jinks. No changes there, is back in the number 3 spot, the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett, riding a very consistent first lap and a quarter of racing. And you got to say hats off to none other than Jimmy Jarrett, as he has, he's gotten off to some pretty good starts, but he's never in a lot of races actually been anywhere in contention after the first lap of racing. He always seems to fade, but today he is holding steadily in that top 3 as Barry Hawk makes his way by now aboard that number 3 machine, and we head out near the 3 mile marker. And look at this lap traffic already here on lap number 2, becoming a factor in what is taking place with our pro race. And we can see the ruts are beginning to get deep out here in these wood sections, and some of them are not too bad. We've got some nice tacky areas, and then we've got some really soft areas that we see right there. And of course, wondering what this racetrack is looking like other than about foot pegs deep. Let's jump on board our Scott Goggles helmet cam to see exactly what these riders are faced with today as they tackle these hills here in southeastern Ohio. As we can see them making their way through some creek beds and some of the low-lying areas of this John Penton GNCC race course. And again, some water washing out, but not nearly as much water as what we were faced with as of yesterday, as it was raining during the ATV race. So again, blessings for the guys on 2 wheels as they make their way out of that creek now. As you can see, very slimy up some of these uphill sections just out of those low-lying areas. But as we work our way more toward the top of the hill, you can start to see that the conditions are starting to tack up quite a bit, giving these riders all the traction they're going to need. Thanks again to Scott Goggles for that view and the Scott Goggles helmet cam. Lap number 2 now, and we work our way around Barry Hawk, still trying to reel in the rest of the crew right now. And it looks like maybe Barry Hawk has gotten around that number 10 of Robbie Jinks, as we've got some changes quite possibly taking place here at the Weisco John Penton GNCC. More pro riders having problems making their way out of that creek bed section. It's not much of a challenge, it doesn't appear, but obviously it is more than it appears on television. These riders have the opportunity to go up that little section there, cut it short, or they can go out a little longer and ensure themselves an easy access out of the creek bed itself. But they can also shave off several seconds of time if they can get out of the creek on the first try. Unlike that guy right there, Steve Hatch having some problems, a bunch of them, no doubt about that. But we talked with Steve earlier today before the race to find out what he thought.
Everything's going really good. The team has no eye in it, and everybody's working hard. We really want to get up there again on the podium. Today's conditions are going to be tough for everybody, you know. It'd be nice to get a good start and just stay up there. It's going to be a little bit of Russian roulette, I think, with making some hills and lappers and stuff like that. So try to stay out of trouble, try to stay upright, and ride hard.
Well, Steve Hatch, no stranger to these conditions, as he's a former national enduro champion from the early 90s, so he's been faced with conditions like this more than once. P.A. Allen struggling to get out of that creek bed, and it looks like also one of our 250A riders back there aboard that number 29, Aaron Wagner, working his way out of that creek bottom as well. Lap number 2 near the 6.5 mile marker. We'll call this nearly halfway on a near 13-mile race course here at the Weisco John Penton GNCC. And there's Barry Hawk still holding onto that number 4 spot as we check back a little further behind him. That looks like that might be the 124 of Shane Watts, who's actually behind Barry Hawk. So in reality, I believe that the number 10 of Jinks still in second, right behind that guy right there, the 111 of U-Haul Salmon. And no, that may have changed as well, as it looks like maybe now the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett has taken over the number 2 spot, and that was the number 10 of Jinx, who'd fallen off a couple of places. There's the number 3 of Barry Hawk now back in the number 3 spot. As it looks like he's moved up. It looks like quite possibly that's the number 10 of Robbie Jinx in 4th place. And the 124 of Shane Watts rounds out your top 5. So now we're getting things sorted out here on this second lap of racing. As you can tell, plenty of things have changed. And one of those is the fact that the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett is holding on to a solid second-place position here early on in the race. One rider that's been able to keep the pace all season long with U-Haul Salmon has been Mike Lafferty. He's out with a collarbone, but we had a chance to talk to him before the race.
I feel real good. We've been doing rehab for the last week and a half since I had surgery, so I feel good. You know, it's surprising how good it does feel, but it's not healed yet anyway. So they put that plate in there, and I'm just going to hang out a little bit and get ready for a National Enduro next weekend in Missouri, and hopefully I'll just ride around and see what I can do there and you know, salvage that series. But for this, I'm just going to wait and see how I feel in the next couple of weeks.
When do you plan on coming back after the race?
I'd like to come back for maybe Wisp. You know, I really like Wisp, so my personal goal is that one, but we'll wait and see what the x-rays say and how I feel and all that stuff.
Are you bummed being here now?
Oh yeah, this has got to be the worst thing ever, is to hang out and not race. You know, mud, dry, dust, it doesn't matter, just racing, you know, missing it. It's just being here is kind of a bummer, but hey, you got to do what you got to do, and you know, keep up my keep up spirits, and hopefully be back here, you know, before you know it.
Well, whenever the number 20 of Michael Lafferty crashed in South Carolina and broke that collarbone, he was actually 2nd place in the points and one of the most consistent riders behind the 111 of U-Haul Salmon. And you know that Mike Lafferty has got to be chomping at the bit right now, really upset and disgusted with the fact that he's not able to get out and mix it up with these guys. But the important thing is that he is going back to racing, and he's got a National Enduro Championship that he's trying to win, as well as trying to do as good as he can here in the GNCC Series, if not win that championship. It's kind of out of his grasp now, but he still has the opportunity to win that National Enduro title. But we look forward to seeing Mike Lafferty back on the racetrack here at the GNCCs real soon. End of lap number 2 now, as U-Haul Salmon made his way in that number 1 spot. And once again, some of those 250A riders are factors in the overall top 10 after 2 laps of racing complete. So it's going to take us a couple moments to dissect the situation there to know for sure just exactly how things are breaking down. But as soon as they do, we will pass the information along to you. Meanwhile, we'll check back in with U-Haul Salmon, and as he gets a pit board there from Antti Kallinen, his mechanic from over in Finland. Actually, Antti is a racer himself, a motocross racer, taking a break from that action and that scene over in Finland to come over and help his good buddy U-Haul Salmon out in the off-road endeavors of GNCC Racing. And it looks like a great team and a great pair to work together as they are dominating right now the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship. Making his way, oh, mercy, down goes a rider. This is one of our lead riders. I'm not sure if this is one of our pro riders or not, but it looks like the number 4 of Steve Hatch making his way in, bobbling just before the finish line region in the conclusion of lap number 2 as well, as we've got 250A riders checking in. And with that being said, we should be able to start dissecting things a little bit more here to find out just exactly who has got top honors in the top 10 overall after 2 laps of racing here at the John Penton GNCC. Taking a look at our Suzuki leaders board now, U-Haul Salmon on top, Jimmy Jarrett in 2nd, Barry Hawk in 3rd, Robbie Jinx drops off to 4th place after a lap 1 lead. Shane Watts back to 5th, Doug Blackwell up to 6th place now. Scott Watkins, the 250A rider, running in 7th, Brian Garahan 8th. 250A rider D.R. Atwood, the doctor from Millfield, running in 9th overall right now, 2nd in that 250A class. And Steve Hatch rounding out the top 10. And speaking of Steve Hatch, looked like Hatch just took an actual pit stop there after only 2 laps of racing. You got to wonder what's going on there, whether he needed just gas or maybe a fresh pair of gloves and maybe a splash of gas, whatever the case may be. Let's head on down to the Throttlehead.com pits now to talk with his crew chief.
Well, they're using a lot of gas right now, according to Josh, and we've had a little trouble with fuel consumption all year. We just used 2 gallons of gas. If we'd have gone another lap, we'd have been pretty close. So it's kind of a guessing game. We played it safe, and we're going to have to probably pit twice anyway, so we're good to go now.
Early pitting strategy. Got to wonder if it'll work out for Hatch and the boys. As lap number 3, we're out here near the 1.5 mile marker now, and conditions are starting to deteriorate quite a bit for these riders. As we see Jarrett making his way by, still in that number 2 spot aboard the 103 Suzuki. Looks like Watsy may be working his way up, and Barry Hawk has dropped off to a 5th place position now as he's trying to go through the deep mud out there. Barry Hawk aboard that number 3 Ampro Yamaha is finding himself in a situation where he's trying to play catch-up once again, and he has been plagued with nothing but suspension problems all year long. 6th place rider Doug Blackwell, we saw checking in there just a moment ago, has not been much of a factor in this 2005 season since he got the early lead in Texas. Actually grabbed the hole shot in round number 1, but we haven't seen a whole lot from Doug Blackwell since. As we check in once again with our leaders, looks like still Juha Salminen out there. Robbie Jinks still slicing and dicing through those top positions, and it looks like maybe that the number 10 has gained a couple more positions there, as we see that the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett holding on to 5th place. Barry Hawk in the number 4 spot. Tough break there for Hawk as he continues to go back instead of forward. At the Yamaha hill climb now, our Yamaha spectator section doesn't look all that rough and tough here today, but yesterday for our ATVs, they had some long rows to hoe up this Yamaha hill climb, as we see our top pro and even some of our lap traffic now making their way up this Yamaha hill climb. There goes the number 10 of Robbie Jinks. Looks like also not far behind the 124 of Shane Watts, doing some battle in there with him. And there goes the number 3 of Barry Hawk once more. And still the 103 of Jimmy Jarrett holding steady. Got to wonder how well Doug Blackwell is doing right now, as Blackwell at the end of lap number 2 turned a 23-minute and 12-second lap time. That was about 36 seconds faster than Robbie Jinks, and also only about 9 seconds slower than Barry Hawk. So Doug Blackwell may be very well on the move right now, up through the pack as he makes his way around this race course at the John Penton GNCC. It's Sunday Creek Cycle Park, located just outside of Jacksonville, Ohio, which is also known as Millfield, Ohio, and it's all located in the beautiful and scenic Athens County, Ohio, only about 3 minutes drive from the Burr Oak State Park, which in reality, this GNCC for many years at the Sunday Creek Cycle Park was known as the Burr Oaks GNCC. But of course, about 4 years ago, we changed the name to the John Penton GNCC, giving homage to the pioneer of off-road racing and John Penton himself. And believe it or not, the legend still lives, and he's here with us this weekend. Got some very inspirational words, and just good to see him hanging out with the KTM folks at this Wiseco John Penton GNCC. Juha Salminen closing in on the conclusion of lap number 3 now as he makes his way through that big mulch pile and has got lap traffic to contend with. That's the kind of thing that can take you out of the running in the snap of a finger or the blink of an eye, as you know, you're trying to go by our lap rider there, and then all of a sudden he zigs when he should have zagged, and he puts you down and out and takes you out of commission as they continue to jockey for position. And we wonder just exactly how tight things are here on lap number 3, as it looks like that Barry Hawk may have moved back into that number 3 physical position on the race course out there. And not real sure what happened to Shane Watts, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's been a while since I've seen him make his way by, but we'll be taking a look at that leaders board here in just a few moments for 3 laps of racing complete. And it looks like that we may be in for an 8-lap race, is what they're telling us, the way things are breaking down out there on the race course. A very fast racetrack, and we're scheduled for an 8-lap race now. We're not even to the halfway point, as we're just now concluding lap number 3, getting ready to head into lap number 4. Back up near the finish line region now as Barry Hawk checks in the number 3 spot. That's behind Robbie Jinks, the number 10 machine, who has bounced around in that top 5 over the course of the last lap or so, but has regained that number 2 spot. Hawk has been doing some bouncing around of his own as he checks in that 3rd place position. And things are getting sorted out now here after lap number 3. Checking in with that Suzuki leaders board now. Looks like U-Haul Salmon is still on top. Robbie Jinks second. Barry Hawk in third. Jimmy Jarrett in fourth place position. And Steve Hatch rockets himself all the way up to a fifth place position right now. Nathan Canny runs in sixth. Doug Blackwell back to seventh. Brian Garahan eighth. Shane Watts back to ninth. And Scott Watkins at 250A rider holding on to the top 10, but drops off to a 10th place overall position as he continues to hold on to the lead in that 250A class. Right now, in the pro pit section, looks like Robbie Jinks in for a pit stop, a fresh new pair of Scott goggles, as well as some of that Klotz Racing gasoline as he quickly makes the switch on the goggles. The Klotz gas filled to the brim now, and he is off and rolling back into the racing action. Whoa, and Robbie Jinks looked like nearly went down there as our third place rider now, the number 3 of Barry Hawk, going to be making his way into the pits. You got to wonder, after 3 laps of racing and a lot of other riders checking in for pit stops, will Barry Hawk be stopping in for a pit stop himself? Will he be getting gas? Will he be getting fresh goggles? Yes, he will as he stops in. Barry Hawk under the tent now for some gas and a fresh pair of goggles. And looks like they're trying to actually change his gloves. So Barry Hawk also going for a fresh pair of gloves. Wraps those paper towels around the handle grips, and that's to help keep those gloves as dry for as long as possible. A nice, bright, shiny number 3 plate, as you can see who he is on the racetrack without much problem, as that number 3 plate has been cleared off. So we know that Barry Hawk is making his way around this John Penton racetrack. More riders checking in the pro pit section, and even our AmPro Yamaha 250A rider, Charlie Mullins, who is running third place right now in that 250A class, who nearly finished third place again at the Loretta Lynn GNCC. So Jason Raines taking the pit stop now. He's going to get a fresh pair of Scott goggles, as well as filling up with that Klotz Racing gas now. So let's head down now and check in with our Moose Team Spotlight. This week featuring Andy Shea.
My name's Andy Shea. I'm 23 years old from Oxford, Ohio. Been racing GNCCs for 10 years. Been riding for 11. I ride for Plessinger Cycle. Scott Plessinger got me into racing in 1998. Really pushed me, taught me how to ride, and has been helping me, supporting me ever since. He's got a large race team out of Hamilton, Ohio. His boy rides motocross. He's qualifying for the Loretta Lynn's Amateur National. Scott's also racing the Amateur National this year. My mechanic, Mike Buell, he's been with me for the past 2 years. Works on my bikes, keeps them in tip-top shape. My father also comes to the races and helps run the pits and make sure everything goes smoothly. I've had some problems. Broke my femur 2 years ago. Been kind of an uphill battle from there.
I'm Mike Buell. I'm from Hamilton, Ohio. Me and Andy have been friends since probably our 8th grade year. At the races, I do his pits and control gas stops and goggles and everything, and before the race I get the bike prepared and go through it and make sure it's going to last a 3-hour race and make it look all pretty for all the sponsors.
Things are starting to turn up. North Carolina finally had a good race, got in the top 10, was running good. The rest of the year has been kind of a struggle to stay up in the top 10 with the rest of the guys.
And that's our Moose Team Spotlight as we check back in here on lap number 4 near that 1.5 mile marker. We saw the entire AmPro Yamaha team check in for pit stop. Let's stop down and talk with
doing all right. We back a little bit. U-Haul, he's just getting out front. And we can't keep up. I don't know exactly what the deal is, but he's really riding good. And Barry said he keeps getting stuck, so we'll just keep digging, do the best we can.
And, of course, that Dale Stiegel helping out Barry Hawk. Let's stop down now and talk with Daryl Raines, Jason Raines' father.
The place he's in right now. He's been getting stuck out there quite a bit.
So did your pit go well? Is he confident?
We had a really good pit stop. Like he said, he wants to do better. He just can't stop from getting stuck out there. So maybe the second half of the race was usually better for him. So he'll do better.
We'll see if he does better or not in this thick, heavy, slick Ohio mud as we head out near the 4-mile marker now. U-Haul Salmon continues to hold on to the lead. It looks like he's starting to stretch things out quite a bit over Robbie Jinks and the rest of the field as Barry Hawk makes his way through now aboard the number 3 machine. It looks like maybe Hawk might have moved into that number 2 spot. Time will tell that story, though, as we have lap traffic to contend with now for some of those riders trying to make their way through this section of the race course. And though it does not look that rough here, you can see as they make their way around behind those trees that those are some pretty deep ruts out there, and creating quite a bit of a challenge for our pro riders as they make their way over that little rock. And, of course, there goes Doug Blackwell. Wonder how Doug Blackwell's doing? Let's stop down in the pits just to see exactly.
Yeah, he got about an 8th on the start and come around first lap 8th, and now he kind of flew by us, put in a good time on his last lap. We were supposed to gas him here, and he flew by, so we're praying right now that he can make it 5 laps on his gas, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Mike Nichols doesn't appear to be too optimistic about 5 laps, and at the rate that Doug Blackwell is traveling right now, trying to work his way up through the pack, that could be a very disheartening situation to put yourself in, to run out of gas, especially after gaining ground like Doug Blackwell appears to be doing here on this 4th lap of racing, as we're at the 6.5-mile marker now, working our way once again through yet another lap of racing out near the 10-mile marker on lap number 4. This is lap 4 of 8, so we're nearing the halfway point of the John Penton GNCC. It looks like a 250A rider trying to make his way up the hill, or a 4-stroke A rider trying to make his way up the hill now. And conditions, though they may be tacking up, are also pretty greasy in other places as well, especially if you see a creek at the bottom of that hill. Looks like maybe some water has been carried up the side of this hill, creating those slick conditions that these riders are faced with, trying to make their way toward that finish line here in the closing miles of this 4th lap of racing. Lap number 4 coming to a close now as Juha Salminen checks in once more, and the Yamaha mulch pile once again claims another victim, and I don't believe this is one of our pro riders, but wouldn't be too surprised if that would happen, as we see some of these pro riders struggling, especially in the conditions that we're faced with here today. But again, Juha Salminen with a healthy lead over the second-place riders right now, as Robbie Jinks was the last rider in second place that we checked in with there. Down goes another rider. I believe that was Robbie Jinks there aboard that number 10 machine as he checks in the number 2 spot. Looks like he's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 seconds or so behind Juha Salminen. As we take a look at that Suzuki leaders board now, Salminen out front, Jinks in second, Hawk in third, Blackwell up to 4th place, Steve Hatch in the 5th spot position, 6th spot, Scott Watkins moving back up through the pack, Shane Watson 7th, Brian Garahan 8th, Travis Green, the number 504 250A rider, in that number 9 spot. And it looks like Nate Canny rounding out the top 10. As we head out near the 2-mile mark here on lap number 5 of 8, Juha Salminen appears once again to be controlling the situation here at the 7th round of GNCC Racing, 7th round of 13. Our next stop will be in Summersville, West Virginia for the Mountaineer GNCC. And I'm sure that we're going to see things really heated up by the time we head over there in only a few short weeks. But right now, things are really tough out on lap number 5 as these riders continue to jockey for position, all the while not wanting to make any mistakes to get hung up, allowing a 250A rider the opportunity to move in to an overall position. And it looks like right now that some of those guys might be well within striking distance of doing just that, as Doug Blackwell, we told you, moved up to 4th place at the conclusion of lap number 4. He was on the move, maybe running out of gas. He best hope that he stops in and fills up with gas this lap around, but whatever the case may be, we'll just have to wait and see. But nonetheless, Blackwell was 3rd, Barry Hawk 4th, Steve Hatch was 5th. And Hatch once again running a very steady race in these muddy conditions, taking those national enduro champion skills and testing them here in the hills of southeastern Ohio. Checking in out near the 4-mile mark here on lap number 5, Juha Salminen having not much of a problem making his way up out of that creek bank. We saw so many riders having problems with on lap number 3, but it looks like things have kind of thinned out there somewhat. We check back in with some more of those A riders. Juha Salminen, it looks like about ready to lap Andy Shea, the rider that was the focus of our Moose Team Spotlight here just a few moments ago. But Juha Salminen picking his way through lap traffic, picking his way through this racetrack and these deep, rough lines that the John Penton GNCC is throwing at these top off-road racers in the world. Looks like one rider takes a spill there as he makes his way up onto that rock. Probably a little bit of mud on that front tire just kind of washed out, and we saw him go down. 6.5-mile marker now, near the halfway point of this 5th lap of racing as we're nearly in the home stretch of the John Penton GNCC. Juha Salminen once again at the 6.5-mile marker. Got lap traffic just ahead of him, but it appears that he is working his way through the lap traffic without much problem now. Robbie Jinks now in that number 2 spot, still trying to reel in the 1:11 of Juha Salminen. He's still got some time to get it done in, but it is running out quickly as we are on the last half of this race now, lap number 5 of 8, and we're already more than halfway, or about the halfway point of this 5th lap of racing as Barry Hawk still trying to hold on to a number 3 spot, but it's going to be tough as it looked like maybe Doug Blackwell had gotten around. Couldn't quite tell for sure, but we'll check back in with that in just a few moments as we're out near the 7-mile marker now. Juha Salminen, nobody around. He is all by himself, except for that one lap rider that saw him coming and let Juha go on by. But back there in the number 2 spot, still the number 10 of Robbie Jinks, and it appears that he is stretching his lead out over the 3rd place ride. So there's 2 big gaps starting to open up here, one between 1st and 2nd, and now the gap between 2nd and 3rd is becoming quite noticeable. More riders trying to make their way up this greasy hill now. And it's going to be tough to do for some of these riders unless they've got a nice sharp Maxxis tire on the rear wheel of that motorcycle. That usually helps them get a little bit of extra traffic. And look at that rear fender of Barry Hawk as he made his way through there only just a moment ago. You can see it drooping so that the mud is sticking. The mud is heavy. And that's taking its toll on both the machine and the rider. Checking in now with our Suzuki leaders board is Juha Salminen still on top of Robbie Jinks. Doug Blackwell has moved into the number 3 spot. Barry Hawk in 4th. Steve Hatch rounds out your top 5. Garahan in 6th. 7th, Scott Watkins, 8th place. Travis Green, D.R. Atwood in 9th. And Nate Canny rounds out your top 10 as we head back out to our leaders at Juha Salminen. Getting the pit board there from Antti Kallinen, telling them that he's got quite a bit of a lead over the rest of the field after 5 laps of racing complete. Actually, about 3 minutes and 30 seconds worth of time he has opened up over the course of the last 3 laps of racing or so that we saw such a tight battle between the number 10 of the number 1:11 of Jinks and Salminen. Looks like a pit stop for Doug Blackwell. Finally, we saw the gas now pit board. Now we actually see him getting the gas now as he gets that fresh shot of gas. This should be enough to carry him on home as we head out here on lap number 6 near the 1.5-mile marker now. Juha Salminen still out front, and it looks like the dogs are all barking and nipping at the heels. I believe that was Jack Penton, actually. That is Jack Penton, the living legend himself, as it appears that Barry Hawk has moved into the number 3 spot. That'll drop the number 5 of Doug Blackwell into 4th place after that pit stop, and still charging hard, it appears, aboard that privateer Suzuki. Heading out near the 4-mile mark now here on lap number 6. Juha Salminen with a big buffer zone between himself and 2nd place right now. About 3 minutes and 30 seconds worth of time, as well as several hundred lappers, I'm sure. By this juncture in the race, Juha has been able to capitalize on every mistake that any rider has made out there, as he seems to be riding flawlessly, even through sections like this right here that are becoming more and more tricky as the race wears on. That rut there at that rock becoming more and more challenging for these riders to make their way over. Out near the 6.5-mile marker, lap number 6 again. Juha Salminen getting the pit board from Antti Kallinen, and I'm sure it tells him, you've got it all under control. Look here, looks like Doug Blackwell's moved into that number 2 spot now aboard that Suzuki from Parkersburg, West Virginia. May have gotten around that number 10 of Jinks unless we missed him go by. Barry Hawk checking in now aboard the number 3 machine, and if that's the case, he would have moved in to the number 3 spot, but we'll have to wait and see if that's the case or not, as it looks like there is the number 10 of Robbie Jinks, and apparently we had just missed him at the finish line region over by the 6.5-mile mark. but he is still holding on to the number 2 spot. Blackwell in third. It looks like Blackwell is closing that gap actually quite a bit and going to be challenging Jinx for that number 2 spot. Still back in the 4th place position is that number 3 of Barry Hawk. There's Steve Hatch up to 4th place now aboard that number 4, Bottlehead.com Kawasaki, as we head out near the 10-mile marker now, closing in once again on the conclusion of yet another lap. This will be lap number 6 complete in just a few moments, and we'll have only 2 more laps of racing to go here at the Sunday Creek Cycle Park and this John Penton GNCC. Thanks again to Wiseco Performance Pistons, the proud title sponsor of this 7th round of America Series, the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship Series. End of lap 6 now. Juha Salmonen checking in, getting the towel to go, and also getting the 2-lap board from none other than Ricky Towery there. And, of course, with the race coming to a close with only 2 laps to go, let's stop in and check again with Jason Wygant.
There goes Robbie Jenks at the number 2 spot, but nearly 4 minutes down on Juha with a lap and a half to go. It's unbelievable what Juha Salmonen has done once again in Ohio, dominating. But the KTM people got to be happy, because even if Juha has a problem today, Robbie Jenks is going to carry him on to a victory. So 1-2 for the KTM boys right now.
Robbie Jenks losing more and more time on Juha, but more importantly, he's keeping the distance between himself and that rider right there, the number 5 of Doug Blackwell, whom, believe it or not, is running right now, it looks like about a minute behind Robbie Jenks. So good going there, Doug Blackwell, the best race so far of this 2005 season, and actually over the course of the last 2 seasons of racing, the best race so far that Blackwell has been able to put down. Also, it looks like another consistent race there by the number 4 of Steve Hatch as he checks in only about 30 seconds off the pace of that 4th place ride. Suzuki Leaders Board again has Juha Salmonen on top, Jinx in 2nd, Blackwell 3rd. In 4th place, Barry Hawk, Steve Hatch rounding out the top 5. Garahan, Allen, Atwood, Canny, and Watkins through 10th. Checking in now with that Suzuki Pro Rider Tip of the Week.
I'm here with Fred Andrews in our Suzuki Pro Rider Tip of the Week, and this week we're at the John Penton GNCC, and it's Mudfest 2005. And the big question, Fred, on a lot of folks' mind is, how do you prepare yourself for a mud race?
I think the most important thing is your goggles and your gloves. I've got my Scott goggles already made up with hole shot tear-offs on for when you get that first big patch of mud, you can take them off. Then I use the Scott roll-off to keep my vision good. And your gloves. I've got my Thor gloves ready. You know, I've got an extra pair ready also in case I fall down in the mud, because once your hands get all muddy and slippery and you get on your grips, you know, you can't hold onto the bike, and that's important, holding on. Secondly, I put an extra foam on top of my helmet, because for the roost from the other bikes, you put your head down to block the roost, and your helmet tends to get heavy and push down on your head. So you want to put some foam up there or something to keep the mud from sticking. And sometimes on a day like today when the mud's going to be really, really sticky, I wear my shoulder pads underneath my jersey, because if you wear them on the outside, it gets all mudded up and it pulls down on you. So basically that's probably about how you get yourself ready to go there, and you drink plenty of fluid like you would on a normal day. And then as far as the motorcycle goes, you try to stuff foam anywhere that you can, in your shifter, in your brake pedal, underneath the skid plate. And then I run my Dunlop 773 tires on there, which are good, and they clean out real good in the mud. And man, hopefully you don't fall down too much or get stuck in a rut, and you just have a good day.
And that's your Suzuki Pro Rider Tip of the Week.
Some really good tips from Fast Freddie Andrews there on how to prepare yourself to get set to go riding in conditions like this as we head out near that 1.5 mile marker on lap number 7 now. Juha Salmonen, the dominator, once again here at the John Penton GNCC. Looks like Robbie Jenks still holding on to the number 2 spot as he has dropped, as we said, nearly 4 minutes down off the pace of Salmonen. About a minute or so back behind him right now, the number 5 of Doug Blackwell aboard the Suzuki there. Another privateer ride. Again, Doug had a Suzuki factory ride a couple of years ago, but wasn't turning in the results. And, of course, some changes made there in the FMF squad. So looked like Doug came out on the short end of the stick of things there. But slowly but surely, it looks like he's rebuilding that race program. As we're out near the 2 mile marker now, and a bike-only section, it looks like. And again, lap traffic separating Juha Salmonen and Robbie Jenks at a big time deficit, opening up more and more as the race wears on. As we wait now for more riders to check in. Looking now for the number 5 of Blackwell for 3rd place, Barry Hawk for 4th, and Steve Hatch in 5th, unless things change. There goes that number 10 machine of Robbie Jinks as he finally makes his way through in 2nd place. And another KTM pilot looked a lot similar to Robbie there a few moments ago, but that was Robbie going through there. And he is still laying chase to the current points leader in Juha Salminen. Still Blackwell back in 3rd, Hawk in 4th, Hatch still back in 5th. No changes over the course of the last 2 miles of racing as we head out near the 3-mile marker on lap number 7 now. And Salminen, probably one of the faster looks from Juha that I've actually seen. Normally Juha is so slow or so smooth, he looks like he's riding slow out there, but not today, folks. The track is rough, it's rough, and he looks like he's riding rough and fast, and obviously the lap times are proving that to be the case. Again, that slick rock out there, you got to wonder how many folks are having problems through this section of the race course right now, as it looks like Blackwell will make his way through A-OK, still laying chase to the race for 2nd. Whoa, Barry Hawk! Barry Hawk not making his way through that section very easily, as the ruts have become more and more deeper, and that's become more and more challenging, and Barry Hawk finds himself down on the ground again. We've seen this happen a lot to Barry Hawk over the course of the last few races. You got to wonder if the suspension may not be the big problem that Barry is faced with in this 2005 season. Let's take another look at that through our Yamaha replay. Barry just simply washed out like a lot of the other riders have been. The mud packed in that front tire, really greasy, and makes it slick to make it across the top of that rock, and you got to get a little bit of a jump heading up over that rock out of those ruts, and that little bit of momentum, if you're not really ready for it, it can wash you out real fast. And we see right there in that Yamaha replay, Barry Hawk goes down here at the John Penton GNCC, losing time here on this lap, but nonetheless, hopefully Barry will be able to make it up as he gets back off and rolling now. Took him a little while to get her done, but he gets her done, and we head back out near that 6.5-mile marker, and Juha Salminen getting the pit board once again. Cruise control is what that one says, and I think that's exactly what Juha has it set on. Lap 7 near the 7-mile marker now as this race is coming ever so quickly to a close here at the Sunday Creek Cycle Park. And the John Penton GNCC still the number 10 of Jinks in 2nd, Blackwell in 3rd. Barry Hawk still holding on to the number 4 spot aboard the number 3 machine. And obviously things are beginning to stretch out that much more as we're out near the 10-mile mark now. And it looks like Robbie Jinks once more in that number 2 spot here on lap number 7 as, again, Juha is gone. About 4+ minutes after nearly the 7th lap of racing now. We'll know more here in just a few moments as Robbie Jinks will be checking in for a white flag. And we'll be taking another look at that Suzuki leaderboard. But right now we know it as Juha out front, Robbie Jinks in 2nd, number 5 of Doug Blackwell in 3rd. And at last check, Barry Hawk in the number 4 spot. But still, a lot of folks wondering how those 250A riders are doing. Juha Salminen checking in for another lap complete as Antti cheers him on, and the white flag out this time around for Juha Salminen, the points leader, and looks like quite possibly the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Champion. We still got several races to go, and we still got a lap to go here, but let's stop down and talk to Juha's mechanic, Antti, about this huge lead.
It's like 4 minutes now, a little bit over 4 minutes, so I think those guys who was normally behind Juha, like Kearney, he had a bad luck on the start, and also Barry Hawk, I don't know what's with him, but he's lying on the 3rd place now, so those guys just can't hold the speed what Juha is doing now, so I don't know the reason.
Well, I don't know the reason either, Antti, but right now Juha has definitely got a big lead, and he is having fun. In 2nd place, Robbie Jinks checks in. And let's check in with Jason Wygant and find out what's going on down at Blackwell's.
All right, with GNCC Racing, we talk a lot about the big factory teams, the big semis, the big money these guys get paid to race. But today, one of the privateers who used to race out of one of those semis is running in 3rd overall. Doug Blackwell, you see his crew behind me. It's his girlfriend. A couple of his buddies come down. He's racing on his own dime, a true privateer. And if he can hold on for one more lap, he's going to take 3rd overall today.
This has got to make things that much better for Doug Blackwell to be running a privateer ride and then, of course, being able to finish on the podium like that. Of course, right now, Barry Hawk running in the number 4 spot, but we head out near that 1.5-mile marker one more time here on lap number 8. Actually, the last time through this section for Juha Salminen is, again, a 4-minute-plus lead at the end of that 7th lap of racing. And there's more indication that this racetrack is breaking down more and more as we see Robbie Jinks making his way through that same rut. And it's slowing down not only the amateur riders and those B riders out there, but it's also slowing down our professional riders quite a bit. Except for that guy right there, Doug Blackwell. That shows exactly why he's been able to make up the kind of time that he's been able to make up over the course of the last few laps. It's bonsai. Get the wheel up in the air and get it up and over those ditches, over logs, and everywhere that you can as we, again, continue to work our way through this final lap of racing. And Barry Hawk trying to reel in a podium position finish right now, and it is tough for him to do. At last check, Barry Hawk was running about 50 seconds behind Doug Blackwell. So Barry has been consistently losing time throughout the course of the last couple of laps. We saw him go down there on the last lap also. That could account for a lot of that lost time, but obviously Barry Hawk beginning to tire from the frustration here in this sticky southeastern Ohio mud at this Wiseco John Penton GNCC. As we can tell, more riders having problems out of that little section of the race course right there. It's amazing how if you get the right line, you have absolutely no problems whatsoever, but if you get an inch or two off your mark, then you find yourself having all kinds of problems. Looks like P.A. Allen figured his way up and out of that creek that time around aboard that number 14 machine. And the youngster from Van Leer, Tennessee, fistful throttle and out of sight out of that creek section. Yamaha riders having problems there, making his way up. He has to get way out wide from the momentum. And what's that say? Juha checking in at the 6.5-mile marker, just past the halfway point. Stay focused is what the translation for that on that pit board that Juha was shown by Antti Kalmanen there. Stay focused is what our translators is telling us that actually means. Now, that's not the exact words, but that's what it translates down to. And it looks like Juha has done just that. Stay focused, and doesn't have a whole lot of time to stay focused in as he heads toward that finish line region now. And a wheelie, whoa, almost crashes it out. Almost crashes after the wheelie heading for that finish line. And Juha Salminen will take the win here at the Wiseco John Penton GNCC. Round number 7 of this 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship Series. And you can see the big grins on Juha Salminen and Antti Kalmanen, both very happy with the performance that KTM was able to muster up. Let's head on down to the winner's circle and have a word with Juha.
Won by like a million minutes. What happened?
Yeah, it's a good start, and what you can do after that kind of start, just keep going and ride fast as you can, long as you can, and it works really good. And I enjoyed a lot today. It was perfect lap and perfect race and good creep, lot of deep ruts, and I like those.
Are you lonely out there by yourself?
No, there is plenty of lappers with me there, so I'm not alone there.
Scenario.
Juha Salminen cruises to a comfortable win here and has plenty of time at races in to sit, get a drink of water, and also an interview for this race when it's all said and done. We're nearly 5 minutes behind with Robbie Jinks checking in that number 2 spot aboard the number 10 KTM. Big ride for Robbie today. He's been riding consistently well throughout the entire season. Hasn't finished on the podium as of yet, but what better place to do it than in his own home county of Athens County, just outside of New Straitsville, Ohio, over in Millfield, Ohio. And Robbie Jinks will take the 2nd place position. Big news for the folks of Athens County, and I'm sure that a lot of the folks from southeastern Ohio are proud of their own as that floppy fender of Doug Blackwell, that heavy mud packing up and under it now, makes his way toward the finish line region in what looks like a 3rd place overall finish, his best finish in about 3 years, and his very best ride, obviously, in this entire 2005 season as he's working his way home now into the home stretch toward that finish line region. And again, hats off, props to Doug Blackwell, a full-on privateer ride. showed up at the first race in Texas, believe it or not, in a rental car with his toolbox in the trunk of his car. That's how he pitted in Texas off the pro row. National number 5 out of the trunk of a rental car. Utterly amazing. And good to see that he's come as far as he's been able to do as we take a look at the Suzuki Winners Board. Salmon and Jinx, Blackwell, Hawk finishes 4th. Steve Hatch, another strong finish as he finishes in 5th place this time around. Brian Garahan in 6th, his best finish on the year. Nate Canny finishes in 7th. Brad Andrews in 8th. P.A. Allen in 9th place. And D.R. Atwood, that 250A rider, actually winning that class, it looks like, as he'll get top amateur honors and 10th place overall in our race day today. As we get a good look at the Suzuki Winners Circle now, and Robbie Jinx receiving the cheers from the hometown crowd here at the John Penton GNCC. As you can tell, the crowd is really happy. They want a piece of Robbie, and the action is they're all wanting Robbie to throw a piece of his clothing, his gloves, his goggles, his helmet, something. Throw something out here so we can take home some great memories with us. Of course, Blackwell also coming off his best finish of this 2005 season. Let's head on down to the podium and talk with him.
Got a pretty decent start, actually. I'm not sure, maybe 7th, 8th, something like that. Went into the woods kind of right where I wanted to be. I didn't really want to lead because of the mud holes and stuff. Not sure in which ones were going to be deep or not, but I was right where I wanted to be. Just kind of feeling my way through the first few laps. There was 4 or 5 of us going back and forth. I know Steve Hatch, Brian Garahan, Watsy was in there a little bit. We were all kind of dicing back and forth, and I was just kind of buying my time, waiting for the track to kind of develop and get the lines worked in. And actually, toward the middle of the race, right after the gas stop, things were starting to dry up. The lines were getting established, and I just got a fire burn in me, got charging, and things were clicking good. Just started passing people and working my way forward.
I talked to your mechanic, and you didn't pit on the lap they wanted you to, and they were afraid you were going to run out of gas. Were you worried at any point?
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I got a gas now pit board, and I come through, and they were all over there twiddling their thumbs, eating ice cream or something. So it's kind of like the Days of Thunder movie. I can by looking for gas, and they're all like waving at me. So I wasn't sure if I lost track of the laps or whether they lost track, but I just gassed it up and kept going and hoping for the best. And luckily it worked out with the laps being a little shorter on that first lap. Might have made a difference between making it and not.
Race, right?
Yeah, we got out on the start. I made a mistake. I got around him. Then I made a mistake, and he got back, and then he got a gap on me, and I kind of ripped on myself all day. I got a gap on them other guys, and then at the end I made some mistakes, and they started reeling me in. But the last lap, I just put my head down and tried to go as fast as I could without making any mistakes for them to catch me.
So you have 4 weeks off now. What's that going to do to your schedule?
It's going to be pretty good. Give us a chance to get things sorted out again and go for these last 2 before break. We got 4 weeks to really put our head down and do some training. Get ready for West Virginia. That's a pretty tough race. Last year it was rocky, and it'll probably be warm this year since it's in June and dusty. So we need to be ready for that for sure.
It's just that's my style. Try to take good start and just try to go. It's part of the racing. You have to be fast and you have to ride long and take good lines, and that's what I do.
Are you going to train for the 4 weeks off and get ready to come out with a larger momentum?
No, I think that's the speed what I have. I just have to keep it somehow. This time of year you can't have more speed or you can't prove your riding. You just have to keep the level where you are.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, U-Haul Salmon actually heading home to Finland during the break as the champagne flies here at the John Penton GNCC. A big day for a couple of local boys, the Athens County native of Robbie Jinx and, of course, the Parkersburg, West Virginia native just across the river there from Athens in the number 3 spot. And also another top rider from right here in Millfield, D.R. Atwood, gets top amateur honors.
You're out there riding and you're moving up the
Yeah, I started out good and I kind of fell back after making a few mistakes, and there was a couple of times I'd have some crashes and just think it was going to be over, but I just kept pushing the whole race and it paid off for me.
Is this boosting your confidence for the next race?
Oh, it certainly is, especially after all the bad luck I've had. It seems like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong this year, and it feels really good just to have a good, strong finish.
Congratulations.
Thanks a
D.R.
lot.
Atwood, once again, top amateur honors, 10th place overall. Anthony Callanan celebrating his birthday at the John Penton GNCC as they congratulate him there on the podium. But our Moose Point standings looking like this now. U-Haul Salmon on top. Barry Hawk moves up into 2nd place. The points is Glenn Kearney having an awful day today. drops back into the number 3 position of points. And get this, Charlie Mullins bumps up one from 7th to 6th now from that 250A class in that Moose point standing. Well, that'll do it from the Wise Coach John Penton GNCC. On behalf of everyone at Gear Marketing and Media and Racer Productions, I'm Rodney Tomlin saying have a great day, everybody.
The Grand National Cross Country Championship is sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. Rights, Riding, Racing. AMA. Join now. Call 1-800